Good evening, everyone. I am Shivam Vaya, your host for the evening today. And along with me is Vishal Bhargava. He has been a columnist for Moneycontrol for quite some time now, but you may actually know him as one of the finest real estate consultants or expert covering the Mumbai, Pune, and the rest of Maharashtra market. He's actually right now in Nasik, and thank you for joining us, Vishal. Means a lot that even while you're traveling, you took out the time to join us and share your expert insights.
Thank you, Shivam, for having me.
No problem, anytime. So I'll just give a brief introduction of what the purpose of this webinar is. At Home Capital, we believe in helping others accelerate their home buying journey. While we also have our own products in this space, the primary motive of this webinar is to educate home buyers and smoothen out the entire journey for them. We all know that India's real estate is really difficult to navigate with a lot of difficult terms to understand. And since it's such a big purchase, there are a lot of things at stake. And hence, we are trying this on a monthly basis to, get experts from the industry, understand how the home buying process works, what are the finance options available in terms of home loans, down payments, stamp duty and registration, and maybe even when you're looking for a second home, a vacation home, or something like a retirement home. There are so many possibilities out there. But we often realize that the number of resources available online are either too generic or not useful. And to bridge that gap, we have started the Home Buyers Connect series. So thank you so much again for joining us, Vishal. We'll be having quite a casual conversation on this one instead of going with a very pinpointy question and answer format. And to start with, I'm going to ask you a very generic thing. What are the current trends that you're seeing in the industry, especially after COVID? Because, pre-COVID, the situation was quite streamlined and expectable. But post-COVID, the expectation from buyers has changed radically. I mean, we all realize that, at the end of the day, we end up spending so much time in our own homes, and hence realizing that requiring a bigger home or place where you can have your own dedicated office space is now a bare minimum necessity. So what are the trends that you have observed in the last 2 years?
So, thanks, Shivam, for the introduction. So, I think there are three broad trends that the market is undergoing at this point. One is that we are seeing demand hold to be reasonably steady, despite many of the incentives that were there in the offering in late 2020 and 2021. By that, I mean measures like a stamp duty cut that were given, interest rates that were at rock bottom levels. We are seeing demand hold up to a large extent. The trend towards under construction properties has become even more fierce. With fierce away from under construction properties. So people want properties that are at an advanced stage or ready stage. And third, I'm seeing a pattern wherein home buyers are looking for spaces which need amenities. If there is one major trend that's played out over the last 5 years and has seen even greater acceleration in the post-COVID space, is that people want projects with amenities. If you don't have amenities, you're at a distinct disadvantage.
Right. So amenities are now at the front of it all. And by amenities, you mean to say recreational activities available within the housing complex, or would that point towards a township kind of a model? Or are we seeing people, go for something like having their own club, own gymnasium, and everything available within the vicinity?
So it's between the first and second alternative that you suggested. One is amenities within the project. Over and above
Hmm.
that is if you get that gated community feel, that plays an extremely important role as well. There's one thing getting amenities. There's one thing getting community. I think we are seeing the rise of people who want access to community also. Invariably, in the last 2 years, I think there are five distinct projects that show us this trend that people are willing to pay a premium if the community is right. You buy over there because the people you want to be with or the people you like are already there. So something similar to what we used to see with exclusive gymkhanas and clubs, where memberships used to be at astronomical rates. They were considered exclusive. We are seeing that petering down into residential projects as well. The other things like parking and all, which are considered, they're considered far too basic to be called as an amenity. Um, the battle is really between recreational amenities, and within that, how much of that gets offset by the apartment size. Um, I think we've spoken on this in earlier private forums, where the trend towards in Mumbai or MMR has been that homes are getting smaller while amenities are probably getting bigger. The trade-off is where the battle is being fought. That how much are home buyers willing to sacrifice for space inside the apartment for the benefit outside the apartment.
Right. So in a similar line, I would want to ask you, there have been a lot of, complaints that, when the developer is fresh out with the project, they promise that there are a lot of amenities available. There's the club, there's a swimming pool, there's maybe even a restaurant within the vicinity itself. But there are complaints that, the upkeep of these facilities often goes for a toss after some time, after once the project is done, or the developer is focused on expanding it. So what would be the measures that a home buyer can take to ensure that their basic due diligence before, getting too attracted with the bling of this is also long term?
So I think in this thing there are 2 points. I think developers, of course, promise the moon, but that's to be expected. If you're selling a high value item, you have to sell a dream. So they will bundle a lot of
Right.
amenities. It's important for a home buyer to know what are the amenities that he wants specifically that are there. One of the most generic statements that marketing sales professionals say is that it has 40 plus amenities. Now, 40 plus amenities really doesn't mean a lot. You have to know exactly what are those 40 plus amenities that are there. Within that, you have to know how many people will be using that amenity. That's why it's not just important to know 40 amenities. Within that, what amenity, how much is the space that these amenities occupy versus the density of the project. Because of the type of rise we have seen in FSI levels, we've gone more and more vertical in buildings. So more and more apartments. So more number of users are using the same set of amenities. Often that leads to amenities being too crowded or unusable. That's on one side. The other part that you mentioned, after a year or two, it often goes for a toss. It's true. I won't blame the builder for it because most of the time it's the society that takes it on, and they are keen on cutting corners on the maintenance bill, because of which they try to remove the gloss from projects by cutting out certain things that they deem to be not necessary. Um, that's where I think the part of community comes into play. When you're buying a project, it's very important to know if the people of your strata, breed, habits are also buying there. Because in case there's a mismatch, we see what is a common phenomenon in redevelopment projects, where people from very different strata are put in the same building, and that leads to conflict in management.
Right. I think that also addresses a point that you initially raised, that home buyers are now not just looking for facilities, but they're also looking for communities. And by communities, I think you mean to say like-minded individuals who, can get on the same page for taking a decision, or, whether even it's about deciding how much the maintenance should be, or which amenities a case where there's not enough funds or things are getting out of hand, then what should be cut back? I think that's what you mean.
Yes, that's where I think that's where the real challenge of managing a building is. That's what holds up the value of a property or degrades it. Uh, I think home buyers or people who are observers will note that there are some projects that have appreciated well over a period of time because the upkeep has been strong, the society has handled it well. But there are also very good projects done by developers which have completely fallen off the grid because the society has not been able to manage affairs well. So both of them exist. It's important when somebody is taking a call to know who exactly are you going to be staying with, not in the house but in the project.
Right. So I think this also brings me to that question, right? That people often have this, let's just say, this expectation that if I go with a branded developer, then the upkeep will be very much better over long term. At the same time, the appreciation of their own property will also be high. But as you pointed out, the appreciation and the returns from value that the customer is getting is actually indirectly or even directly factored in basis of the maintenance and the community that is around the project.
Exactly. I think that the developer can only do up to a certain limit. Um, Construction is a challenging business. Um, I think some developers do it well. At the same time, I often tell people that if you are buying an under construction property, whether branded developer, whether unbranded developer, you have to be prepared to be disappointed. I don't want to. Such is the nature of people, from selling a dream till the actual reality of getting the apartment, and then the subsequent phase where the developer is not there. Uh, you have to know that if you are buying into a dream, it's very likely you will be disappointed. So buy the dream, but still try to control the strength of that dream. I'll put it that way.
Okay. So another point that I can think about here is like you said, by basis of the community that is around you. Now, would it be right to assume that, let's say, if I'm looking for a home for my parents, I mean they are retired now, and if they are looking for a nice place to live in, then I think the community part comes in where I ensure that the entire building or the project is having a similar demographic as them so as to ensure that they are also in the same wavelength. Similarly, if I'm looking for a vacation home, then it would be a better idea to go around with a project that is also having people with a similar taste or expectation in mind.
Yes, exactly. I think you need to figure out uh, if there is too much variance within the same project. You gave one example. I think a simpler example for your viewers to hear is that just think of a building which will have a 1 BHK offering and a 3 BHK or 4 BHK offering. The 1 BHK customer is very different from a 3 BHK or a 4 BHK customer. Now, will they behave the same at the time of handling the affairs of the building post the society coming into play? Very unlikely. Uh, so, in case if you are that customer who is buying a 3 BHK apartment of a certain ticket size, which might be 2x, 3x of what the 1 BHK customer is, chances are you have to be prepared that things your property will not withstand the test of strength over a period of time. So some developers have that offering where they 1 BHK is a complete different building. Uh, 2 and 3 are together, lumped in together. But I'm also noticing a trend where in many buildings on the same floor, there's a 1 BHK, there's a 2 BHK, there's 3 BHK. Um, uh, I can give my best wishes to the developers, but I think home buyers should be cautious in spotting these sort of patterns within a project.
Right. So let me tone this down even more. Like you gave this example of 1 BHK, 2 BHK, and 3 BHK being on the same floor. I'm just imagining a scenario where the 1 BHK has a bachelor student or a very young professional just moved into a city, while the 2 BHK has a young family that's just getting started, and in the 3 BHK one you have a joint family which is consisting of many old parents and everyone living together. So we can all imagine the cohesion and the friction that could be generated with the three totally different demographics being put in one flow.
Exactly, well said. I think that's a good extension of the 1 BHK, 2 BHK, 3 BHK audience that is there, and the compatibility issues that will happen.
Right. So I'll again rally back to the same point about the changes that you've been noticing after COVID. Now, there is one distinct observation that I've had is that immediately after the first and second wave of COVID, everyone was with the opinion that hey, we need a dedicated workspace in our homes. Why? Because work from home has become the standard option, and we are not expected to go out anytime soon. Now, I see a lot of people have bought properties basis of this assumption. But now, as we see post COVID, as the world is reopening up and offices are opening up, with a lot of employers also coming up with policies of full time work from office, or even a hybrid model where they end up spending at least 60 to 70% of their times in office. So now, are we seeing a subtle change in the short term right now? Or are the scars from COVID that deep that we will be seeing a US like culture of having a study or a dedicated workspace within the home? And I'm asking this because there's barely any space left in a city like Mumbai. So it is a very difficult decision for one to take whether I should be dedicating this much space for myself or what should I else be doing?
So, Shivam, the scars aren't very deep. Okay. Um, and I think that
That
there are
was a
multiple
very
reasons.
frank answer.
The multiple reasons for it, but I think markets like Mumbai, I know different markets have different operations. NCR and Bangalore have a different trajectory at this point. You refer to Mumbai, so I'll give a specific answer on Mumbai. Is that in Mumbai the practice has become that you are targeting affordability. You know what is the budget of the customer. You know what is the profit margin you want. Based on that, you decide the size of the apartment. Now, within the size of the apartment, you have narrowed it down to such a low level for majority of your projects. Remember, in the last decade, apartment sizes have gone down by 25%. Okay, so with that happening, can you really can you really offer extra space? It's very unlikely in markets like Mumbai. On the outskirts, I know there are developers who have done that to some extent. 2 BHK O offer, O is the office. Uh, some developers have given a study. I don't think this is a trend that will continue. Uh, if at all it's not stopped already, it will stop. I don't think there's a market for it as such.
Noted. Um, Another thing that I wanted to ask you about, which is, again, revolving around COVID only. One of the most cliched questions that everyone has is that now that COVID is over, the upcycle in the real estate market is coming up. Should I wait for the down cycle to come again? I mean, I know this is a very also naive question because nobody knows what the future will hold. But what would be your take on this when someone is trying to buy a home but is little bit procrastinating as to should I wait or should I wait? What should be done?
So, uh, one of the ironies about real estate business is that until the upcycle is not started, people still people still pretend that the upcycle was on.
Right.
So we hear about the down cycle only when the upcycle is started from developers. Um, so I think if you're a serious home buyer, be on the market, be on the block. Uh, there will be good offerings. You have to filter right. At the same time, don't rush into an apartment purchase because consultants tell you that this is the best time to buy a house. Okay. Uh, I've been seeing it from 2015. One consultant telling you every 6 months, this is the best time to buy a house. It's the best time to buy, best time to. In case if somebody had paid heed to the advice, he would be battered with his finances at this point of time. You need to be very clear why you buying the apartment. Most likely, it will be end use. If you're thinking of investment, my best wishes to home buyers. I will not suggest it, but my best wishes to them. Your purpose has to be end use. Within end use, don't go to buy an apartment because you have put a timeline on when you want to buy an apartment. Buy it when the product you want to stay in is available. One of the things that I'm noticing a severe backlash is that on related to compact apartments where people have bought over the last 3 to 4 years under construction. At the time of possession, they get it. They realize it's too small. They can't live in it. They
Right.
they they, they, they their immediate thought is that they want to upgrade. They can't upgrade because for that you would displace your current house. Selling your current house that you've got isn't easy. So buy it when you
Hmm.
study the floor plan, whether it's usable for you and your family. If it's not, delay the purchase. The houses aren't going anywhere, prices aren't going anywhere. In case if the price of one project goes up more than your budget, there will be five others that will come in. So don't worry about that. You focus on your livability, your budget.
Right, right. So that you've raised a very excellent point, actually, because we have been grown up seeing our parents and, the previous generations basically saying that, real estate is all about having a fixed asset that is constantly giving you consistent returns. Now we have reached a stage where, even the expert is basically saying that think about the product and then decide. This argument has now this not the argument, but this narrative has now had a very subtle change from viewing a home as an investment option to now a necessity for bare minimum living. So, what would be your input on this? And like you said, if the product is right, go for it. So, what would be your definition of a nice product or a good enough product?
So right product will vary from customer to customer depending on what age he's at, what stage in his life he's at, what he wants from a product. Some people just want connectivity to their workplace. You're a young man, bachelor, the only life is that. Some people want amenities. Some people want society. Uh, so it varies from individual to individual. My suggestion to anybody who's looking to buy a house is that you have to see at least 20 apartments. If you have not seen 20 apartments, that means the market has not been wide enough for you to explore.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So do not buy a project until you've seen at least 20 projects. You will see different offerings. All don't need to be uh, properties that are sold by developers. They can be in the resale market as well. But you need to see 20 to know what options lie there so you can assess the final property that you're going for. Because when you visit 20 properties, it's an education. That education will help you in finally deciding what works, what doesn't work. There are many things when somebody goes to buy a house, they do it only once or twice probably in their lifetime. They also don't know what exactly they should be expecting. What are the downsides? When you see 20 properties, chances are that somebody will tell you, my property is good because around me there's no dump yard. There's three properties over there that have a dump yard. And in that competitive battle of hearing all sides, you will know that which is the upside and downside of each project, and then you can take a decision.
Understood. So, just to give an example, I think there's this very popular movie having Shah Rukh Khan in it, Dear Zindagi, and there's one bit of scene where he basically says that you should try different chairs before deciding which one is the most comfortable for you. And I think a similar analogy is also applicable here because unless we have seen what is out there on offer, we wouldn't even know ourselves what are the pros and cons. Like you said with the dump yard example, it could be a dump yard. It's Mumbai after all. It could even be a nala or basically a open sewage going behind your building. Now, when you see more options is when you start realizing has what feature or what offer has more priority for your own personal preferences.
Exactly. I think Shivam, that's well put. You need to see properties. You need to get educated. You need to study a floor plan. Okay, and by study a floor plan, I mean you have to go deep into it. Uh, Most people I notice when I visit sales offices, the floor plan is just an academic thing. They look at it over here. The person, the developer or the sales manager takes them to the show apartment. The show apartment is typically the largest apartment of the entire project. And then they tell you that,
Right.
sir, this is a 3 BHK. The 2 BHK you're looking for, this space will not be there. This space will not be there. This space will not be there. You can't imagine that. Okay, you can't imagine that. Okay, so you have to spend a lot of time studying the floor plan. Don't go in by what the person is selling, go by what you need to buy. Okay, uh, and show flat, while it's a great feature, show flats are often deceptive. um, Rooms are made to look bigger than they are by putting in elements like a smaller bed. And yeah, one learning I hope the market matures into is that don't go by the simple thing that pricing itna hai, square feet itna hai. मतलब per square feet rate ये है.
Hmm.
Okay, that per square feet rate is where there's a lot of there are a lot of leakages to that way of looking at a project, because there are multiple variants to that. In some, the wastage of a space is more. In some cases, the ventilation is not right or the light is not right. So you have to go beyond just looking at those elementary numbers. Ticket size is 1 crore. It's a 500 square feet apartment, so it's 20,000 rupees per square feet. And then he'll go to the other developer and say, "Arey, you're at 21,000, so that means this 20,000 is cheaper." That's not necessarily true. The 21,000 might actually be giving you more usable space than the 20,000 guy.
Right, right. That actually makes a lot of sense. And these are, I think, some of the points that are not exactly available out in the market, because usually what we see is information is either coming from the developer or the channel partner, and in both the cases, they have a vested stake to make a sale, which means that the end customer may not be always getting the most accurate information at hand. So my next question would be, how does the home buyer deal with such a situation where everyone is trying to show them a rosy picture? What should be the basic due diligence that should be done in such cases? Like you said, the sample flat that anyone has is obviously going to be world class, the best there is. So what steps do you suggest should be taken to ensure that the feedback or the actual product being experienced is organic?
So I will say that. So I think the introduction of RERA has helped a lot. So first things first, before you even visit a project, go on the RERA website. There's an option there to search project. A RERA number is given. Click, so put that number in. You will see the project details. Okay, who's involved in it, what sort of offerings that are there, how much of the project has been complete, who are the architects, who are the contractors, so on and so forth. There's also a sale agreement. Okay, uh, of the deal that will eventually take place. Uh, Once that is there, you go visit the project, uh, see all the things that the person is offering you in the project. After that, I think that is where the most critical step comes in. Whichever developer you have gone and seen the project of, you have to visit the previous projects of that same developer. You have to talk to the customers of that old project. If there is developer A whose project you have gone and seen, he will tell you, "I have done 5 projects." That's not enough. You have to go to at least 3 of those 5 projects. Find a way to talk to people who are living there. Ask them how's the experience been, how's their journey been. Then you'll get a good idea as to how that person's dealing has been, uh, what sort of initiative he's taken, what sort of care he's taken of his home buyers. Was there a delay in the project? Have the projects stood the test of time, so on and so forth. Uh, Fourth thing, uh, look at the payment plan that is being offered. The study the pros and cons of payment plans. Um, Lenders typically gear people to a certain type of product based on uh, based on the interest of the lender. You have to do your own arithmetic there to understand what payment plan works best for you. And yeah, once you're decided on all of that, then then basically take your call. So in that way, you have covered studying the developer before going to the project, then going and visiting the project, scanning it in and around, his product, be it the amenities, then seeing his previous projects, and then the payment plan. I think if you take care of these, uh, the odds of you being terribly hurt get reduced considerably.
Right. So, basis of this, my second question would be from a construction point of view. I know might be a little technical, and even for the normal average person, might not be a very easy thing to figure out. But I have heard a lot of complaints from home buyers that the quality of construction from the developer itself, when it comes to the walls, the beams, and the bare minimum structure of the project, there are quite a lot of issues with this. So how can a home buyer navigate such things, which are basically for them very difficult to understand and decipher?
So, Shivam, in this, there's frankly no way that a person can get to know beforehand, because he will tell you, I'm using ABC material. What he eventually uses might be very different. Um, Fortunately, RERA has provisions that allow the developer to rectify a serious issue if it comes up within a certain period of time after handover of the project. So the developer's liability does not end the moment he gives you the project. If there are serious structural defects, he is liable to fix it. But yeah, to answer your question, you can't figure out what material the person will be using, even if you are informed of it. What you are told to what happens might be very different. There are agencies that do an audit of this at the time of possession. Uh, I don't think they've found too much substantial interest from home buyers. I think it's perhaps one of those moments where these sort of agencies will see a degree of traction as handover happens, and home buyers decide that perhaps it's worth it taking a shot to go to an agency to figure out whether the quality of this offering is up to what we were sold.
Right, right. And I think partially what actually works out in this case is, like you said, visiting the previous projects, because that should give us a fair amount of idea of what were the previous claims that the developer had versus how much percentage of it were they actually able to deliver.
Exactly.
Makes sense. So another thing I had was I was reading one of your columns, and that's where I came across this term, super area. So we see there are a lot of such terms that are not industry standards, but developers have started adopting them. So what should a buyer have in mind in terms of terminology, that whatever they are being sold is actually the industry standard and not just an invention of the developer?
So super area is an extremely interesting concept, Shivam. It's been there for a while, widely abused term. Uh, there is merit in having super built up area. Uh, broadly, there are two terms that home buyers should keep in mind. One is carpet area, uh, RERA carpet area, which is the area within the apartment where the carpet can fit, plus the internal walls of the apartment. Uh, Super area includes the uh, entire square footage that the developer will be building with the apartment. Okay. Uh, there's a logical argument for probably having it, because when people do large projects where the apartment itself is a small component of it, but there are many things outside of it. Super built up area uh, holds some degree of resonance, but it got exploited so severely, wherein the entire meaning of it got lost. Thankfully, in markets like Mumbai, I must emphasize this, that Mumbai is perhaps the only market in India where developers have adopted carpet area. Nobody sells on super built up area today in Mumbai. Even a market like Bangalore or like Gurgaon, they still sell on super area. The agreement might have carpet area, but your entire verbal communication is super area to give you the impression that the size of the apartment you're getting is bigger. The per square feet rate is lower. So if a carpet area is 600 square feet, the super area is 1,000 square feet. If you're buying an apartment for 60 lakh rupees, he'll tell you it's just 6,000 rupees per square feet. So it gives you the impression that the size of the apartment or the size of the offering is bigger, your house cost is cheaper. That's not the case. You have to be watchful even there. If you're a Mumbai buyer, you don't need to worry. All of them sell only on carpet. So Mumbai developers have led the way in that regard. Navi Mumbai is still shabby in super area and built up area, but Mumbai, Thane, big developers, they sell only carpet. So that worry, that jargon, does not need to be evaluated anymore by home buyers.
Right. Another question which is on a similar lines that I had was okay, before I proceed with the normal engagement and conversation that we currently have, if anyone has any questions from the audience, please feel free to post them up in the chat section, in the Q&A section over here, and we'll be taking this up at the end of this. Any doubts, concerns, or clarifications you may have, right now is the perfect time for you to throw them at the expert, which is Vishal. Coming back to you, so like we said, right, there are these terms which are just being thrown around to confuse the buyer. In a similar way, another trend that I've noticed is that developers cling on to a lot of future prospecting projects. Let's just say there is a new metro line coming up, a new airport is being built, or there's a new expressway going on, and that becomes a centerpiece of marketing for every developer. And why wouldn't it? I mean, if there's such a mega project coming near you, then that's for sure going to help you appreciate the property prices. But on the flip side, we currently have a case where, we know people who have bought places, land, plot in Navi Mumbai on the hopes of Navi Mumbai airport being a reality. But in the last 3 decades, we haven't seen anything, and we're still quite far away from the airport from even operationalizing. If we even look at Mumbai, Bangalore, there are promises of metro coming up in every nook and corner of the city. But even as we talk today, right now, half of the lines are in a limbo or still being constructed at a snail's pace, which means that even if I expected as a buyer that in the next 5 years the metro will be here, my price will appreciate, my connectivity will improve, my overall standard of living will go up. But that is not actually materializing. So, what would be your word of caution in such cases?
So this is a tough question, Shivam. To be fair, in most cases, I think developers are right in selling infrastructure dreams, because that's the only way to lure someone towards investment. Uh, the thing people have to get wary is that if these projects that the developer is touting, uh, they are just hearsay, or just imagination. Um, Airport example, I think you mentioned it here. I've heard you in another platform refer to a case in the airport that somebody wanted to buy for investment, but is now that building going for redevelopment. That's been the entire journey.
Yes.
So uh, you have to just be watchful as to whatever infrastructure project is being planned. uh, if it's reached an advanced stage, if it has just been launched, please do not get misguided towards it. You have to see some proof of the pudding. um, Example, like you said, the airport. If somebody tells me that airport is coming, buy, your instinctive answer question in your mind has to be, what does the airport do for me that will boost the price of the apartment? Once you start getting into those sort of questions, you'll be better equipped to know that, do you want to really take that bet or no? For example, the Mumbai Trans Harbour link, the longest sea bridge of India, or 22-kilometer sea bridge. Uh, when you see a project and you see people marketing it, you have to be nuanced enough to understand that, uh, does that really work for a person who's going to be staying here? How far is your apartment from that trans harbor? If it's 15 kilometers, 20 kilometers, on top of that, another 22 kilometers on the bridge, the toll of the bridge, and then where you go to. Do the economics for somebody staying over here really work out? I think if you do a deep dive into that, you'll find many answers. Uh, but yeah, don't go searching for questions when it's just a launch of an infrastructure project. Many of them are designed to cater to stimulating this frenzy of investment purchase, where developers sell, uh, home buyers buy, prices remain the way they are, and nothing comes up.
True. And I think at the same time, it's also essential to ensure that the infrastructure project being talked about, what stage is it exactly at? I mean, such projects have a long process, right from, having your initial planning and DPR, then there's a tender for the contract, then the contract needs environmental clearances, and following that, everything materializes. Even then, you do not know whether the funds will keep coming to continue construction. So there are multiple variables involved in this, and I think that is something that everyone should keep in mind.
True. Yes.
Okay, I think we are just coming to an end, following which we can, again go back to the Q&A section. I think there are a few questions already in here. But interestingly, just this week, there were news pieces that the municipal corporation is thinking of, moving the entire Mahalakshmi racecourse from South Mumbai to somewhere in Mulund, which is North Mumbai. Now, interestingly, there are so many projects around that racecourse that have been sold on the promise of a view. Now, we all know that that view may be there, may not be there a decade down the line. So, in such cases, what would be your advice? I mean, should people think about the view, or should that not be a consideration anymore, considering how dynamically the city is growing, and even 4-story buildings are now going for redevelopment, and suddenly you have a huge 40-story building in front of you?
Never ever buy for a view. You will most likely be disappointed. The only time you can buy for a view is like if you're doing a sea facing apartment. You can buy it, just don't pay a premium for it, because with this this complete redevelopment of Mumbai that's happening, there are very strong odds that a building around you, next to you, will be taller, they'll block your view, and the entire premium you paid for will get lost. So yes, never ever pay a premium for a view. I'll put it that way. You can buy it for the view, but never ever pay a premium for the view unless you are at one of those very, very uh, minuscule locations where you're right next to the sea, you're right next to the golf course, you're right next to the lake, where there's nothing that can come in front of you. Some people argue that even if you take a sea view, a coastal road will come up. Those things will keep happening. Okay, but I think, in my view, barring these occasional hiccups on these sort of properties, all the rest, never ever pay a premium for a view.
Understood. The key statement from today's webinar is going to be never pay a premium for the view. Final question from my side, Vishal, is we see a lot of developers offering discounts or lucrative schemes. There are even times where we see that there will be a lucky draw, and a lucky winner might win a car or gold coins or stuff like that. So how do you navigate such situations? I mean, see, for a home buyer, especially in Mumbai, even 50,000 or 1 lakh rupees saved against a loan, against a home of 1 CR is a huge thing. So how does one analyze such a proposition, and what would be your advice in such cases?
No, I think, see all the offers that developers are offering. Don't buy an apartment just because an offer is there, however tempting that might be. Evaluate the project. See, the offer is just there to conclude your transaction. It is not there to drive your transaction. The drive happens at a different stage. This is just to culminate a transaction where somebody is maybe 70-30, 80-20 their head. This offer comes in and closes the deal. So yeah, see all the offers. Developers in most markets of India, they become very sophisticated in their offers, in their schemes. Check it out, evaluate, then take a call. I think that's a healthy trend. I would want a market where discounts, offers go up and down depending on how the market behaves. For the longest time, the industry struggled because developers believed that they could not cut prices, or they could not offer discounts beyond a certain threshold because it may hamper the prospects of a project. Uh, Eventually, real estate is like any other market. Despite what many people might tell you, it's like any other market. It'll go up and down. Developers who adapt with the cycle gain. The ones who sit on their high horse and think that real estate prices only go in one direction, schemes have to go down only. They're the ones who typically don't last too long.
Understood. I think I am done, all done from my side, from my questions. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think just a couple of points. If in summary, uh, for a home buyer, check out the project, check out most importantly the apartment size. Does it work for you? Study the floor plan. Uh, that cannot be a 30-second view for a home buyer. Study the floor plan. Uh, that means how many apartments on the floor, what sort of apartments are there on that floor, how is your apartment going to look like. Uh, Keep in mind usable size of an apartment minimum. Different people will have different thresholds. In my view, if you're buying an apartment below 350, 370 square feet, uh, chances are when you get it, you'll want to just leave that house. So if it's below 350 and 370 square feet, study the floor plan even deeper to know if there's any wastage. Okay, this 350 square feet, 370 square feet that's quoted to you, remember, includes the internal walls of the apartment. So whatever size you're given, the usable size of the apartment is about 5 to 7% lower. So if it's a 400 square feet apartment that you are being sold, remember it's a 375 square feet usable carpet area. Okay, number one. Number two, on the amenities front, don't get bamboozled with the talk of 30 plus amenities, 50 plus amenities, 100 amenities. Ask what amenities, how many amenities are there, uh, how many apartments are there in the entire building. See whether the density of that project will hurt the usability of those amenities. And thirdly, 20 apartments. You have to see 20 apartments at least before you decide on a purchase. If you're not doing 20 apartments, you're not doing enough.
Thank you so much, Vishal, for that perfect summary of our last 1 hour of conversation. I'll now move on to the Q&A round. We have a few questions here, and the first one is from Akshay. He's asking, due diligence to be done while buying a ground floor flat, especially with regards to sewage treatment plant. I don't think ground floors are very common nowadays, though.
Yeah, so ground floors aren't common at all. Everybody sells. I mean, any new project today will try to, because of the type of space area we have, the land that we have. Typically, it's narrow, so you get the ground floor, you get a few floors of parking, and then you get the apartments over and above that. So yeah, due diligence ground floor is a feature I will avoid. So if you're being sold that, be very cautious. There are far too many challenges in staying in a ground floor, even if, and or for that matter, even a first floor apartment. Your preference should be higher than that.
I hope that answers your question, Akshay. The second one is, do you think current real estate prices will hold up or increase in span of next 5 years, or are we due for a correction in prices given a lot of redevelopment inventory, as well as due to probable economic slowdown?
So on the economic slowdown, I think the macro guys can answer it better. For me, I don't know whether I can call it that prices will fall across the board in markets like Mumbai. One part is true. The part you mentioned about the redevelopment supply. Um, we are poised to see more supply in the next 18 months than we have seen the last 84 months. Okay, so a lot of supply will be there. At the same time, we need to keep in mind that uh, it's no longer about uh, you know location. Real estate uh, was that phrase for a long period. It still remains that in many areas. Um Now it's more project. Uh, in one area, you can have a project at a certain price. Right next to that, you can have another project which would be at 60% of the price, 70% of the price. Uh, it all depends on who the developer is, what sort of offering are you doing. Uh, Broadly, I think what we will see is we will see a big heated battle at the price level between tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4 developers. Uh, these are the ones who don't have a brand. Uh, Real estate, more or less, is a commodity. Everybody's offering the same thing. So the only differentiator often you have is price. So in the next 12 to 18 months, the big battle will happen between tier 2 to tier 4 developers on pricing. Tier 1, many projects, they will still hold strong to an extent because of developer pedigree, the location within that area, the type of offering that's going to be given to the customer. So I don't see prices across the board dropping, but I see, yeah, heated competition for about 90-95% of the projects in the next 18 months as supply really kicks in.
Understood. Hope I that answers your question. We have a very interesting question, that is, if you're buying a flat in a city that you don't currently live in, what are the things you need to be careful of?
Uh, I think if somebody is buying an apartment where he's not staying, I don't think there's a barrier as such in terms of buying an apartment. If you want to stay there, you have to just take a call that home buying is a decision which will stay with you for about 10-15 years. So if you're one of those who doesn't want to get anchored to a particular city, it's better to avoid buying an apartment and just stay on rent. Uh, home buying typically should be done when you want to, when you're reasonably certain that this is the city I want to eventually settle down in. Because if you're not, then challenges of management, giving it out on rent, the entire thesis of owning an apartment goes for a toss. So, yeah, if your purpose has to be end use, and if it's end use, you have to be very clear that you're buying the apartment in the city where you want to settle down in.
I hope that helps you answer your question, Shweta. One last question that I'll be taking is, what are your thoughts on projects with row houses?
So there are not too many offerings like that in markets like in Mumbai for sure, but even within the MMR, I've not seen too many projects with row houses. They're a very peculiar offering. It depends again, what sort of location are you really giving it in? Uh, there's certainly a market for it for row houses uh, far in the outskirts, sort of like a luxury home, a weekend home. Yeah, so again, Shivam, for a row house is just a row house. What really adds value to it is where it's built, how it's built, who's it sold to, what else does it offer uh, besides the row house. So yeah, row house in itself does not have as much relevance, but where it's located, who's done it, who's buying it, that's whole much more value.
Got it. We'll take one last final question now. Vishal, I'm so sorry. I think I've already taken a lot of your time.
No,
But
no, no,
what is
go
the
ahead.
right time to sell a property which is bought just for investment? And I think I already know which example you're going to give in this one.
So, see, I'm assuming these are buyers who have bought about 10 years ago. The last 5 years, I don't think there's been too many investors who have been brave enough to enter the market. If you have bought in, I think the most common mistake I see people do is they wait for the price to return back to the level that they bought it at. So if you bought an apartment for 1 crore, say it's gone down to 95 lakhs or 93 lakhs. Most people are hesitant to take a loss on that purchase and they keep holding on to it for long uh, without realizing the opportunity cost of capital. It's better to dispose it off now if you see no prospect for the property and get that money and invest it elsewhere where you'll get superior returns. I think the most since you mentioned that, I'll probably go to the example. I'll say that example of Bollywood actor Sonam Kapoor. There are multiple components to that deal of her buying an apartment in 2015 for 31.5 crore and her selling it in 2022 for 32.5 crores. Uh, I don't have any idea regarding her motivation for buying or selling, whether she bought it for investment, whether she sold just because the prices arrived at that higher than a cost price. But if somebody was to be in that shoe, remove the 1 0 from her purchase or 2 zeros, and you come down to 3.15 crore or 31 lakhs or whatever. Don't hold on to an asset just because you want to get it at the you want to sell it at the price you bought it at. That's the single biggest learning the last 5 7 8 years have told us. It's like a stock. If you bought it for 100 rupees but it's going nowhere, the chances of it going nowhere even in future, sell it, get the money, use it elsewhere in a more productive manner.
Okay, one final update is that the user is asking, they've just bought it in the last 2 years.
Okay, 2 years. Okay, that means 2020, COVID time. Good
Yep.
deal must have been on the table. Yeah, good time to exit. Again, it depends on where they've bought, what sort of project have they gotten. There are people who have bought in 2020 at the real bottom of the cycle, or rather bottom of that phase, and those prices have risen for some select projects. I won't say it's across the board, but in good projects, prices have risen as much as 15-20%. So I don't know what category of project your the person who's asked the question has really bought it in. If he's bought it in 2020, if he's getting a good price on it, and if the idea is investment, I think it will probably be a good time to sell it. Prices won't go up too much higher from here, and if they go up even higher, they'll still underperform most financial instruments.
Super. I think we are done with all the questions now. Uh, Thank you so much, Vishal, for taking out the time. You are literally live with us right now from Nasik. That really means a lot. I hope you're enjoying some wine from Sula over there. Cheers for that.
Yeah, because
And
after the session, I'm
thank
going
you,
right there.
everyone. I know you very well. I'm sure you're going to have a good time over there. As far as our visitors and our registrations are concerned, thank you so much for joining us for the third edition of Home Buyers Connect. We will be back next month as well. The next one will be on February 17th, and we'll try to focus on affordable housing and affordable housing financing. Until then, thank you so much again for joining us. You can follow us on our social media assets like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter for daily updates. We also have an active blog where we regularly publish articles that help address a lot of questions that a average home buyer might have. There are also a lot of tips and tips and more of information available that helps you further process and decipher your entire home buying journey. And obviously, if you're ever looking to buy a property and are worried about the down payment, then please do visit homecapital.in and enjoy interest-free down payment assistance. Or you can even go to HomeNext, HomeNext.com, and take advantage of fully digital home loans. No need to visit any branches or any banks or take any appointments. Just start your laptop or your phone and get started. With the fastest turnaround time in the industry, I'm pretty sure you'll also get addicted to digital lending. Until then, thank you so much, guys, again for joining us. We'll see you again next month. Thank you, Vishal.